Today, they've turned off the wireless and turned on the musical heat in the nation's dance halls. Beneath the neon lights, youth resolves its differences. It's an offbeat, toe-tapping sound, a rhythm for their feet that takes high-spirited youngsters off the streets and into a music that speaks to them. It's been called ska. It's even been called blue beat and rocksteady. But when these bands start swinging, our young people are in total agreement. The only word for it is...
Here it is, the Bakotunes podcast with mattomunoz. Audio brought to you by Chain Cone Clark.
Greetings, Bakotunes podcast listeners. It is I, your host, mattomunoz. On today's episode, Bakotunes welcomes all the way from Coventry, England, guitarist Roddy Radiation of The Specials. If you're a fan of 80s and 90s ska music, or even just alternative music in general, the importance of The Specials to the evolution of popular music is undeniable. Bursting out of the blue-collar hustle of Coventry, England, The Specials were part of the two-tone movement under the vision and musical direction of keyboardist Jerry Dammers, who also founded the Two-Tone Records label that helped launch the music careers of Madness, The English Beat, The Selecta, Bad Manners, The Body Snatchers, and more in the late 70s. The music was fun and shouted a message of unity amongst black and white youth who sported checkerboard fashion from head to toe. It was an amazing, sweaty, energetic dance craze of a time that would eventually reach U.S. shores to help spawn our own subsequent waves of ska, from the Untouchables, the Toasters, Fishbone, No Doubt, Hepcat, Let's Go Boy and the Slackers, The Donkey Show, and yes, Mento Buru, plus countless others. If you were lucky enough to catch The Specials during various stages of their career, consider yourself lucky to have experienced one of the best shows of your life. The Specials had an amazing reunion run, minus keyboard Jerry Dammers, that would last a good 4 years in 2009 before the band began to splinter again. Roddy Radiation and vocalist Neville Staple would head out on their own endeavors, while the remaining members of The Specials continued for 2 more albums. Sadly, drummer John Bradbury and vocalist Terry Hall have both since passed, leaving the future of The Specials in question. Which brings us to the present, and my interview with Roddy Byers, aka Roddy Radiation of The Specials, and now his band, the Ska-Billy Rebels, who will be making a rare appearance in Bakersfield on Saturday, November 25th at Rooster's Honky Tonk in downtown Bakersfield. The show is only $10 and doors open at 8 p.m. So make plans to attend and don't be a wanker hanging out with the rest of the creeps at some square joint. Why not stick around and get with it? And scene. That was from the movie Dance Craze. I'm sure you'll enjoy this interview as much as I did. So without further ado, here's the legendary Roddy Radiation on the Bakotunes podcast. Hello.
Hello, Matt.
Hey,
Roddy.
Hey, Roddy. What's up?
How you doing, mate? Sorry, I didn't confirm your friend request. I'm not thinking very straight today.
Oh yeah, no problem at all. I figured, you got to be jet lagged and all that stuff.
Yeah, a little bit. I slept okay last night, actually. For me, I don't sleep too good nowadays, anyway.
Where did you fly in from?
London Heathrow. So I live in Coventry still, so I had to get a coach, bus down to London very early morning. Mm-hmm. And then, my flight was cancelled.
Oh.
So I spent the whole day hanging around Heathrow. But luckily, they managed to get me another flight out at 10:30. So I got to where I'm staying, Long Beach, at midnight.
Oh, man.
So it was pretty grueling,
Oh, yeah. But so now you're in Long Beach, getting ready for
Yeah, I'm staying with some friends, and sort of near the Pipe Bar. It's just down the road from a nice bar. We played it last year.
Oh, nice.
I might go and have lunch there in a bit, I
think. Cool. Okay, so let's get into this because I want you to go get some lunch. So,
yeah.
Looking at the photos of The Specials, the classic photos that we all grew up looking at, the black and white photos. Now, without knowing anything about anybody's personalities, when you look at the names, the name Roddy Radiation it's what always stuck out to me because it didn't sound as normal.
It was a...
How'd you get the name?
My younger brother, Chris, when I was into Ziggy Stardust, he called me Roddy Radiation as a joke. So when the punk thing kind of came along in 1976, 77, I started using it as a stage name. I've regretted it ever since. But I can't get rid of it now. I did try to drop it in the 80s, but I'm known for that name. So it's like, Johnny Thunders and Johnny Rotten, and everyone had stupid sort of monikers in them days. You know.
But it is a cool name. I mean, everybody knows the name Roddy Radiation right away. I mean, because there's only one Roddy Radiation, so.
Yeah, as far as I know, anyway.
Yeah, well, like I said, before we're going to kind of touch on the history. Now, I want to go way back because, UK and London, we here in the States, we romanticize about so many things. And I grew up in the 80s, right in the middle of all the new wave and punk movement and stuff. I was a teenager. So all that stuff just kind of like, we fantasized and romanticized about what life was going on in the UK. Now, years before the glam, punk, two-tone, and all the movements that came along, it was, what we saw here and what I remember most, because I'm a big history buff about music, it was about rock and roll in England. And I always think of that footage of Bill Haley's performance in 1957, like the first time he arrived.
I saw Bill Haley in the early 70s,
Yeah, so I'm going to get to that.
When they came over.
Oh, yeah, so 1957, and I love that footage. I mean, the kids are going absolutely bananas. There's that wild history and the love for rock and roll in the UK.
I think in them days, like, Britain was kind of starved of real rock and roll, So Elvis never came over, but we had... Gene Vincent and Eddie Cochran did a tour, and sadly Eddie was killed on that tour.
Yeah, so you saw, we saw that the Beatles loved rock and roll because they covered all those, early rock and roll tunes on their early records.
Yeah, well, that's, we all kind of grew up on American music, so we just kind of like did our own take on it, I suppose, and sold it back to you guys.
Yeah. Well, so you're talking about when you just mentioned right now that you got to see Bill Haley. So were you at the 1972 show with Chuck and Bo Diddley and everybody?
No, it was in Coventry. Can't remember now. At the local sort of college. I wasn't to tell you the truth, I never really was a big Bill Haley fan, really. I used to seem a bit old, and he was okay. He was good stuff.
Who were you listening to?
Well, that was the early 70s, so I was kind of I was into the glam rock thing. Like I said, I was into the Ziggy Stardust, Roxy Music, Mott the Hoople, and bands like that. I kind of.
So that's your entry. Okay, so
thing,
that's good to know because we do watch a lot of these. Bio movies about Bowie and
I saw David Bowie in '72 and the New York Dolls about the same time, and that was kind of a big thing. It was a big influence on me. Mick Ronson, Bowie's guitarist.
So they all played. They all stopped in Coventry.
Yeah, well, there used to be a big theatre in Coventry, but they knocked it down recently. So there's not so many big venues anymore. You have to go to Birmingham really to see major bands.
Well, as I mentioned, us here in the States, and I'm not even from Bakersfield. I'm from a small farming town about 22 miles north in McFarland.
Yeah, well, Coventry's only a small city, and I grew up in a mining village about 7 miles outside of Coventry. So that was a very small sort of almost country community, like of people that worked down the pit and dug coal. My father worked at the Jaguar car factory.
Well, how did you keep yourself busy? Were you gravitating towards music early? What were your sports?
Well, my father played my father played trumpet in soul bands in the 60s. So he was playing with all the big artists at the time. He was in this band called Jimmy Powell and the Dimensions, which were never huge, but they were pretty well known. My grandfather played trombone in the Newcastle Orchestra, so it was kind of a musical family. My dad got me on trombone when I was 11, and I switched to guitar at 13. But you can't play trombone and sing at the same time.
Can you still play? Can you still play trombone now? Can you still play trombone now?
No, I haven't touched it since those days.
Yeah. What I was originally thinking was that Roddy Radiation and the way, like I said, the limited knowledge that we have of everybody's past, we just kind of assume that Roddy Radiation gravitated towards the Teddy Boys because of the way you looked. We just kind of automatically think that.
I guess so, because I've always liked the very early rock and roll, the original, say like Buddy Holly, one of my favourite songwriters, and say Gene Vincent, Eddie Cochran, early Elvis, I always loved all that kind of stuff. It was just so real, you know.
Yeah. But the one thing that I've noticed when I kind of do my research and I listen to the stories of a lot of, legendary UK musicians, everybody from, people from the Sex Pistols, they always mention their love for glams.
Well, it was just because that was the kind of the style before the punk thing, It was that was the big thing, like with Slade and T-Rex, and and I loved all that stuff.
Yeah.
So because most of the early UK punk rockers had been through the glam rock thing. Most of them were fans of that kind of thing. So it was kind of related in a way,
Yeah.
So like the New York Dolls, I saw them in '72, and it was like the closest I got to seeing the Stones, I suppose. But that was a big influence on me. Johnny Thunders was one of my heroes at the time.
Yeah. How were being in the middle of those shows, what was, if you could just kind of take me into being in the audience, being, you were a teenager watching these bands at this time. I mean, a lot of us never got to see them, and of course we never, most of the bands have disappeared, but you got to see them real time.
Yeah. I was into like Bowie and Roxy Music, and like Bowie had kind of got into his white soul thing about that time. So when I seen the New York Dolls, it was like back to roots rock and roll, it was raw.
Yeah.
So I kind of like, well, I could play it, I mean, that's why I liked it. It was sort of like, yeah, I could do that. It was the same when I heard the Ramones. It was like, Jesus, that's great.
It seems that there's so many movements going on at the same time.
Well, I say with England, it seems like every so many years, and there was a new kind of movement would happen. Not so much nowadays, but sort of the two-tone thing was like on the edge of a mod revival, and there was a Teddy Boy revival at the same time, and the Skinhead revival. So a lot of the stuff in the '60s had kind of the passion of music had come back, in the late '70s.
Yeah. Well, just to touch back on the rock and roll thing. So I interviewed Slim Jim Phantom of the Stray Cats.
Yeah, he's a friend of mine.
Yeah, and he shared some amazing stories.
I was trying to get the Stray Cats on the support with the last Specials tour in 1981, I think it was.
Uh-huh.
I was trying to get Stray Cats as a support act, I was kind of hoping that Brian might need a second guitarist, so I could jump ship, because I was getting, I wanted to move on again. But their single broke in the UK. They didn't need to do the tour. They even had T-shirts done and posters with the name on, saying the Stray Cats were supported. But I don't really think the Skinheads and Mods would have taken to it.
No.
A lot of the bands we had on tour with us, unless they did like a ska type set, the crowd were pretty unforgiving,
He told me some great recollections of being over there, and so huge it was.
Yeah, I met Slim. I was hanging out at our tour manager's flat in Camden Town, and Slim popped in with his Minder one day, and I went for a beer with him, And I met him again at Coachella in 2010, was it, or 9 or something?
Yeah, 2010. I was there.
Yeah. That was a good gig. I think I lost my leather jacket. That's why my fault. After the show, I'd had a few drinks and put my jacket down, and it went.
Yeah, but so we're talking about there are so many movements kind of going on concurrently at the same time, which slowly start to reach over here into the States in the '80s. Because we got MTV.
The early Specials was kind of part of the punk scene in a way. It's like when we first formed as the Coventry Automatics, or the Automatics, it was kind of reggae punk we were doing, and then we adopted the ska thing because it kind of fitted better. It's more, so it was too disjointed, the reggae and the punk. We do a punk song and then a reggae song, or we do a bit of reggae and a bit of punk in the same song. Because where the ska thing is more like related to rock and roll, so R&B, so you could fit it together easier.
Yeah. Well, a lot of us got, we got introduced to the two-tone movement. I mean, it was so hugely popular over there across the pond.
Yeah,
but
we never really cracked it in the States.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I think by the time you did, you guys had already kind of dissolved. I mean, the Saturday Night Live thing was amazing.
To go, the reason, because like the Specials are all very, very disparate, like with different kinds of people. We had different musical tastes. We didn't get together at college or school or So we were put together by Jerry Dammers, the band leader, keyboard player. And so he like headhunted all the best local musicians, I suppose, you know. So we weren't particularly close friends, and we had different lifestyles and different musical tastes. So we didn't really get on that well sometimes, you know. Especially when you want to coach to, you know, tour, but going around the States for 6 weeks, you know, it was kind of, you know, it's like that kind of broke the camel's back. We'd already done a lot of long tours in Europe and the UK before that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think with all those different, like you said, mentioned all those different personalities. I mean, it you hear it in the sound of the band.
That's what made the band.
Yeah.
Everyone thought they were in a different group. You know what I mean? I thought I was in the Clash or something like that.
Yeah.
And Jerry Dammers thought he was playing in a jazz band. The drummer thought he was in a Motown band, and the black guys thought they were in a reggae group, and Horace, the bass player, thought he was in a punk outfit. So everyone was kind of like doing their own thing, but somehow it worked together. You know, it shouldn't have really worked. You know, in fact, like one of the early reviews, someone said, one of the reviewers said that I played incongruous guitar playing. I mean, I didn't fit in with the ska thing, which you know, it's because like I was playing that rock and roll, Chuck Berry, Johnny Thunders type thing with the ska, and that was kind of unusual at the time, you know.
Yeah, well, it was new. I mean, the two-tone sound, of course, and when you break down each part, you know where Roddy Radiation comes in.
That became a style, like ska punk, you know, like, what's his name from Rancid, Tim Armstrong. He said that I invented ska punk, which is probably stretching it a bit. I just played what I could play, basically. I wasn't really a good guitarist. So I just did, you know, a bit of Dwayne Eddy and a bit of Chuck Berry and a bit of Johnny Thunders and a bit of Keith Richards, you know.
Yeah, well, I mean, all the solos, when you hear the solos like in Gangsters, and you know that it's Roddy Radiation is coming in because
it's kind of funny because a lot of the ska bands after that, they always did like Monkey Man, like the Toots and the Maytals song. They always included like my sort of Chuck Berry sort of ska beginning, you know, which was totally incongruous, as they say.
No, but that's absolutely true.
Monkey Man.
I mean, like, okay, so many of us in the States, we didn't get to see the footage of those special shows until you guys had kind of like gone away, and you know, music videos, import videos started to be more accessible. I mean, we didn't even get to see Dance Craze for years later.
Tours and those early shows are crazy. The two-tone tour with Madness and the Selector. It was like, you know, the whole audience was dancing. You'd see like the balconies like actually moving.
Yeah.
You know, and we'd get on stage, usually on last, you know, and you could see the perspiration in the air. It was like everyone was soaked, you know, all the guitars were dripping with, you know, how we stayed in tune, God's knows, you know.
Yeah, man, but just phenomenal.
They were mad tours, you know. And the crowd, you know, they were just so into it, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, that, you know, those shows, us watching those videos, I think all the bands that formed a stateside in the Specials wake and the two-tone inspired, you know, watching those videos and the way you guys look, that kind of helped set the standard.
We did Saturday Night Live, and that was probably at our high point, you know, and that was... you could really see sort of we were kicking it then. You know?
Oh yeah, I mean when you do the solo,
it was almost scary in a way. I mean, because Keith Richards came along to see us, and he hung out with the band in the dressing room and that, you know, and he kind of put his arm around me, said a couple of nice things to me, you know, which was cool.
Yeah, man. No, you guys are at the peak right there. I've seen those videos.
Break time. We'll be back. It's the Bakotunes podcast with Matt Munoz.
If you're injured in an accident, you need a team who knows the law, a team respected by our community and the legal industry, a team with a winning history in Kern County and beyond. Chain Cone Clark, the team you need when it matters most.
Coventry, a name that rang through the world 22 years ago, rings out anew.
Saturday Night Live, you guys are kind of at that peak. Finally, get introduced to everybody. Now, I've read also the stories of when you guys played the whiskey, and there's always like they painted the entire whiskey checkerboards, and wow.
Crazy, yeah. We were doing 2 shows a night for I don't know how many nights it was, 8 nights or something like that. But it was bloody hard work. We'd already done a long tour,
Yeah.
So I remember being exhausted.
Yeah.
It was pretty hectic. And we were staying at Tropicana Hotel. It was all, I was hanging out at Barney's Beanery, and it was kind of cool.
No, absolutely. Now, a little bit fast forward now into more like the post 80s into the 90s, everybody seems to be kind of looking back on what happened with the 80s, and they're moving into the 90s. Music's getting a little bit more aggressive, but there seems to be there's no end to all forms of ska now. I mean, ska bands, there's traditional and all that stuff.
In the UK, it was kind of the new romantics kind of happened, it was a bit like the glam thing again. Everyone was just dressed up. So like the ska thing kind of like went out the window for quite a while. I formed my band, the Tearjerk, and I went back to playing rock and roll, which I liked, and I back to playing bars and stuff, in London. That's what I was doing,
But yeah, London is UK is moving forward. The new romantics, all the bands that we grew up loving, but the Specials always had a fan base, and in the stateside, I mean, you had the Untouchables. Now there's many different types of ska.
But I guess sort of like the Americans kind of did their own take on it. You got like they mixed the same as we mixed up all kinds of different genres in what we did. Like the American bands took it even further. They put like metal and all sorts into
but they all reference the Specials. I mean, in sound, look, and the attitude. I mean, everything. How does it make you feel to be so influential? Because you are a Roddy Radiation of the Specials, man.
I don't know. I find it a bit hard to sort of. I don't know. Like it's a bit overwhelming, really.
Yeah.
I'm kind of proud of what we did, But like saying, like when the original band split in '81. I ran out of money about halfway through the 80s, and I had to go back to painting and decorating again, which is my trade, So, and I had a family to keep, so it was, like I'd be decorating some woman's house, and she'd go and tell all her friends, guess who's decorated my front room? Roddy Radiation from the Specials. They'd all come round for a cup of coffee and watch me, which is kind of like off-putting,
Yeah. Well, how big's your family? You got a bunch of kids?
I got 2 daughters, and I got 4 grandchildren now. I spend a lot of time looking after the grandkids while my daughters were at work. That's great. That's the best thing in the world.
Oh, absolutely. So your daughters?
That's my daughters didn't, because they weren't born until the mid '80s, so they didn't really know what their dad had done. I just played in rock and roll bands at weekends in bars, as far as they were concerned.
So what happens when they see the videos of you, like in Dance Craze, jumping all over the place? What do they think?
Well, say when we did the reunion in 2009, they all of a sudden it was like, hey, my dad's great, like all of a sudden, because they'd come along to the gigs and hang out with the rest of the band's children, and my daughters would be sitting there drinking champagne backstage, going, "Oh, this is great," and they'd be staying in these nice hotels, so all of a sudden I went up in their estimation,
Oh yeah, no, I got to see the Coachella show, and then I saw you again in 2013 in Ventura, and the 2013 show in Ventura was, for me as a longtime fan, was one of those moments where, to me, it was about as close as you could get to being in experiencing that Dance Craze movie experience. I mean, even though those shows were wild.
I did quit about 2013, the end of that year, or around about that time.
Yeah. Because then I saw the group later on, but you weren't there, and I assumed, there's always something.
Well, Neville had left as well, because he wasn't very well. He had a few illness problems, and I wasn't getting on too well with Terry Hall, and they kind of had a different outlook to what I wanted. They wanted to. Well, they weren't so keen on what I was doing. They started putting my volume down and the outfront sound, and they said we had to wear black suits, and you know, it got a bit regimented for me, and it didn't have the same. I don't know. I didn't have the same input as I had before. So I decided to call it a day. But I had my own band going anyway, so even though I wasn't getting paid as much, obviously, but sometimes money's not that important. I'd rather be doing something I love doing.
Yeah, but I will say this, that those moments that we got to see you guys all together were very, very special moments for the fans, and amazing, unforgettable shows. So, and to see Brad on the drums. Okay, so I've always been curious about this. Brad on the drums.
I ever played with.
Yeah,
you know, like, brilliant drummer. I was very shocked when he died. You know, it's the same with Terry. You know, you don't expect it. It just kind of comes out of the blue. You know.
I know we don't ever think our heroes are going to leave us, so you got to take care of yourself, bro.
I suppose the older I get now, most of my best friends are dead. You know, which is you know, it's a bit sad in a way. You know.
Yeah. Well, Brad's drum snare sound, nobody has ever been able to recreate that sound. Even the bands.
He was great. He kind of like seamlessly sort of like could switch from like rock to reggae to ska, and you know, within a blink of an eye. You know, he's brilliant.
Yeah. Well, that, like I said, to put the close on that chapter in your life, that was just an amazing moment. I just want to let you know how special that was for us.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So now you're moving on. You're now back with the Skabilly Rebels, back on tour. Let's talk about the group and what's happening with this tour and what people can expect at your shows.
A friend of mine sort of put together some guys over here in California to back me and said he fancied doing some club dates, you know. And I thought, yeah, well, great, you know. And I've been doing that on and off since 2012 or 11, something like that.
Yeah, we did. You were here in Bakersfield in 2012. I did my band opened up for you guys. That's why I said.
Cool.
You gave me the Raiders. You gave me the last time I saw you. That was in 1996. You gave me a cassette of the band that you had at the time called the Raiders.
Yeah, that was a short-lived thing. Which was very, very similar to what I'm doing now. Really, it was just a different name, really, with a few different musicians, you know.
Yeah. So what kind of what's going to be your styles? What can people expect?
Well, obviously I'm playing all my favourite special songs, the ones I wrote, you know, like Rat Race, Concrete Jungle, Hail a Rich Girl, and whatever. But you know, I'm doing quite a few of my Skabilly songs, you know.
Yeah.
But they seem to go down well with the crowd, so I'm quite pleased.
No, absolutely. Well, let me ask you this: so the Skabilly Rebel sound, which I'm very familiar with. And, of course, all the things you did with the specials. But you're coming here to Bakersfield. Now, this is the home of Buck Owens, you know, the guitar sound, everything like that. Were you aware? Were you aware of that over there back in Coventry?
You know, I'm a big early country fan. I love... In fact, you know, about 1980, I started listening. I kind of went back in time with the blues and rock and roll, but I also sort of started listening to Hank Williams and George Jones and Jimmy Rogers and all that kind of stuff, and you know, that was a big impact. I don't know, I used to hate country when I was a punk rocker, you know what I mean? Yeah. But all of a sudden, I got older, it made sense, you know. It kind of like, I get this now, you know. I guess I've lived and I've been around the block a few times. By that time, I'd had a few sort of heartaches, and hearing Hank Williams sing it suddenly, and Johnny Cash, you know, all that stuff, and that's still one of my favourite music. Actually, I'm thinking of doing a ska country album next, actually. Covers, you know.
Oh, yeah. I think you should. It makes total sense.
From a Jack to a King. I heard that in the place the specials used to rehearse at in 1979. That was on the jukebox. And I thought, this sounds like ska, you know, Ned Miller's version. And from a Jack to Jack. And it's the same groove, you know.
Yeah.
Just the bass and drums are slightly different. So I got a theory, because like, you know, in Jamaica, country was quite big, you know. Lynn Ballard Neville said, like, you go in the countryside in Jamaica, and a lot of the jukeboxes have got Jimmy Reeves and stuff on, you know. It's not all like heavy dub and reggae, you know.
Oh yeah, that's what Toots said.
I reckon that the Jamaicans used to pick the stuff up on the radio from the southern states, so that was, you know, kind of an influence, I guess, with the mento and all the different African styles they mixed in with it, you know.
Oh yeah, well, Toots always mentioned that he loved country. I mean, he covered "Take Me Home, Country Roads."
Yeah, that's beautiful. I love that Toots version. It's like better than the original, really, for me, you know. But yeah, it kind of works. It's all about emotion, I suppose. That's why it kind of works.
Yeah. Wow. Well, Roddy, I thank you so much for being available. I know you were
thank
super
you.
busy,
Yeah.
and we look forward to having you back in Bakersfield. And hey, if
I'll buy you a beer, man.
hey, let me buy you a beer.
Oh yeah, okay. we're playing Tijuana the night before, so it's going to be a bit of a hell of a drive.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not. That's the only thing that kind of gets to me nowadays is I'm not used to the long drives anymore. You know.
Yeah. Well, be prepared to sign a lot of autographs. I know a lot of people are going to hear.
I'm up for that. Yeah. I'll bring a Sharpie with me.
Yeah. Excellent. Excellent. All right, Roddy. Well, thank you so much. And we'll
Cheers,
see you
Matt.
here.
Thanks so much. Right.
Cheers to
Have
you
a good
too.
day.
You too.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Roddy Radiation, for being on the Bakotunes podcast. I told you he was great. Reminder, catch Roddy Radiation and the Ska-Billy Rebels on Saturday, November 25th at Rooster's Honky Tonk in downtown Bakersfield. Doors open at 8 p.m. Admission is only $10. Now, here's one more song by Roddy Radiation and the Specials. It's Braggin' and Trying Not to Lie, here on the Bakotunes podcast.
I told you I
The Bakotunes podcast with Matt Munoz. New episodes every week. And for the latest, be sure to follow us at Bakotunes on Instagram and Twitter. That's BAKOTUNES. And be sure to like us, rate us, comment at us, and don't forget to subscribe. We'll be back next time.
This is us, see? We're today. If you don't dig us, shoot away some square joint to the rest of the creeps. Well, why not stick around and get with it?